streaming it and cross our fingers that everything still works. Oh, man.
Ooh, I need to turn my volume off before something
test this
loud
stuff out
happens
beforehand. You are live. All right. Well hey, and that's the thing.
I just got all the notifications.
Sweet. I'm going to tweet it out.
I'm going to go ahead and have a pregame sip for those that are joining in the early portion of the broadcast.
Yum, yum.
This little zipper, because this is 117 proof.
Oh, wow. There we go. Frank, when I was on Skype, it said it has been over a year since we've had you on. And I was trying to think about it. I didn't actually go back and look because I was
trying to remember 2 years in a row
issues.
We did the pre-New Year's show with Frank, and then you and I just sort of disappeared for 2 weeks for the most part.
Yeah.
So we didn't have that show this year.
Right. Right.
Well,
yeah,
I for a couple of years I was the caboose on the train.
Well, that's,
all good.
I guess that's one way to put it.
All good. All right. Well, got a few folks hanging out with us. Roger, what's up, dude? Roger might be the only one hanging out with us. I don't know.
Looks like Patrick Drawn is
cool.
Is dialed in.
What's up, Patrick? Got some other folks that'll join us here in a bit, trying to get their NASCAR kick going on.
Well, we're going to talk about this, I'm sure, and so I won't bury any of the leads, but racing season has all but started.
No kidding. Yeah.
Yeah, a couple things coming down the line here and there.
Well, we're going to talk about this too. We got obviously the Chili Bowl is the big thing. That's like the exclamation point on this week, and then we're going to be right at the 24 hours of Daytona, and then we had some interesting news come out in terms of what NASCAR's decided to do with the technical limitations or enrichments of the car, depending on how you look at it.
Oh, yes.
Yep.
Oh, yes.
We'll be all over it. All right. Got some folks on. What's up, everybody? Sarah, Raja, etc. Patrick.
Rogers.
We ready to roll? Sherwin?
Yeah.
All right.
I think I'm good.
Frank, you ready?
Born ready.
All right. Well, if you don't remember, we might disappear for about a minute and a half here. And then we'll be back with you, or our voices might sound weird, but hang on, and we'll get back to you.
Yeah, when Rusty's mashing buttons, sometimes it gets a little wonky.
Yeah, who knows? Here goes nothing. Recording now. Welcome, yo! That's right. This is the Pregame Engineer Tailgate Mayor Racing Podcast, episode number 227. It's Tuesday, January 14th, 2020. I'm Tailgate Mayor Rusty Wallace. I'm in the PTM Podcast studio with Pregame Engineer Andrew Sherwin. What's up, dude?
Hey, man. I can't help but wish we still had that little window of opportunity we had where you can, relate the episode number to a race car or something of that nature. Maybe when we cross into 300, we'll start over.
Start over with it.
And
listen back at what they were and choose somebody else.
Yeah, just pick,
That could be fun.
Pick somebody obscure to talk about. That a lot of these race fans who are also friends of the history.
Yep. Let's do this. We got a great show coming up for you. We got a very special guest. Before we do that, y'all know what the deal is. This podcast is sponsored by you. That's right. You go to patreon.com/PTM and join the What You Drink Club for as little as $1 a month. Get that free koozie and some stickers. Best part is every cent in 2020, we're donating to sponsored drivers. So join the PTM posse today. Be a part of the sport you love. This week's show brought to you by official sponsors at the $5 and up per month level. Now, when I'm doing this slow, I go fast. So let's see if I can make it work. Here we go. Aaron Bearden, Robert Keplinger, Colton Clam, Eric Kevin, Ryan Kiefer, Patrick Cleary, Jeff Brown, Brandon Crowd, Kathleen McDonald, Stacey Wright, Brandon Carl, Rika Porter, Jumpy Bob Les Miller, Julie Bosley, John Pearson, Eddie Greer III, Younker Motorsports, David Mullins, Patrick Johnson, Brett Morris, Crystal Smoke, Fred Rosado, Chad Knappett, Stacey Coleman, Matthew Camper, Lisa Chinano, Rick Houston, Sarah Ambari, and Evan Roller.
That's good flow.
Yeah, it worked out all right. I've done better. I've done worse. But, yeah, excited to get going. We're still in this off-season thing, trying to figure out, like, what are we going to talk about for an hour or so? So
Definitely that.
luckily, we have a guest tonight so that we're not just rambling on each other. We want to welcome back to the show. He's a guest earning his PTM PhD tonight with his third appearance, although it's been a while, over a year as it turns out. But it's great to have him back. He covers NASCAR for FrontStretch.com. He's on Twitter at Frank Villat. It's Frank Villat. Frank, Happy New Year, dude.
Happy New Year to you guys as well. Hey, does that now that PhD? I mean, do I get like something I can mount on the wall, like a degree or something for this? I mean, it's clearly a crowning achievement.
Oh yeah, what we'll do? Just get in touch with our secretary right afterwards, and we'll have that sent out. It's gold plated and has calligraphy and all the trappings of a real PhD.
Perfect. Yes, I need one of those.
I'll give you their number right afterwards, and you can call it 555 PETM
867-5309.
Yeah,
exactly.
Right. Ask for Jenny.
Actually, yeah, believe it or not, our secretary's name is Jenny.
Oh, no kidding.
Hey, sometimes it just writes itself.
That's right. Well, Frank, it's a new year. You know how we start this thing. What are you drinking on tonight?
I'm keeping myself employed with a delicious Coca-Cola. I don't know, for anyone who doesn't know, that is my day job. I work for I'm a Coke dealer. I running around to various businesses, encouraging them to sell and offer delicious Coca-Cola products.
Well, sir, you're representing the ATL very well with that one.
No doubt.
Yeah.
So we appreciate that. Sherwin, you brought something along. What do you have there?
Well, I think I talked about this last week, but I did bring this time a lovely, tasty beverage from the Glens Creek Distillery in Lexington, Kentucky. Actually, northwest of Lexington. You could damn near hit a golf ball from where Woodford Reserve is to this place. And I'll say it again. I know I said it last week. Woodford Reserve, that's where you go if you want the corporate whiskey, bourbon experience in terms of a tasting and a historical perspective. This is the place if you want to learn the real stuff. Because they're basically a backyard distiller who has a brand.
Yeah, yeah. Frank, have you been to Lexington? Have you done the old whiskey trail?
I have not. It probably not a good idea for me. But yeah, it definitely maybe in my youthful single days I probably would have indulged a little more. But yeah, nowadays not so much.
Well, we've got a buddy turning the big 4-0 coming up here soon, and he's requested that we do the old whiskey trail. Sherwin went up and did some recon for us over the Christmas break, so he knows the ins and outs and whereabouts and all that. So we're looking forward to that one. It's going to be it'll probably get a little bit sideways, as it always does.
No doubt.
So Frank, if you're while you're running around dealing that Coke, do you ever like under your breath just sort of say, this goes good with some Jack Daniels, a little Jim Beam in this thing. Ain't nothing wrong with that.
I think it's one of those things. Like I think that's kind of. I don't even think it really has to be said. I mean, some of the most popular, mixed beverages, it's not rum and cola. Right. It's not Captain and Cola. It's Captain and Coke. It's rum and Coke. So, right. I mean, it's we've got that, that brand recognition to where it's almost synonymous with cola, the way like, Q-tip or Kleenex, the item itself is referred to as Coke.
Yeah, nobody goes to a bar and orders a Beam and Pepsi.
No, right. No. If you do, they'll kick you right out. Now, that said, I do need you to go talk to Taco Bell and have them figure their stuff out, I think
we might have to lobby Frito-Lay because I'm pretty sure they
Yum Brands
own
or whoever it is.
Yeah, whatever that parent holding company is.
PepsiCo does own Taco Bell, KFC, and Pizza Hut, so you will never see Coke products in any of those three.
They also own Arby's and what's the root beer one?
A&W?
A&W.
A&W,
yeah. You know what happened?
And KFC.
We went, it was my wife's birthday this last weekend, so happy birthday to Serena. And we went to this restaurant, this Italian restaurant. It's like one of those hip places. It's like kind of nice, but still kind of hip. So you're not like dressing to the nines and all that. You're going out, but it's also really good, and you're paying for really good. But I ordered a tea, and they didn't have no tea. They don't serve tea there. And I was thinking, you're in Atlanta, Georgia, and you're a restaurant. How pretentious do you have to be to not serve me a glass of tea, Sherwin?
Well, I think the only thing you'd have to worry about in Atlanta, at least, I mean, when we were kids, is like you weren't going to be able to get unsweet tea unless you went to a majority-owned establishment that was from the Northeast.
Right.
Or the
right.
Midwest. Like, you go to Waffle House and you order tea, if you just say tea,
oh, you know what
you're getting sweet tea.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. So, yeah, that was weird. You know what? I went to Waffle House the other day. I hadn't been to Waffle House in forever, but we were still jet lagged from that whole Japan trip I talked about last week. And me and the wife both woke up at 4:30 a.m. and we're wide awake. And I go, well, I can't go into work this early. You know, I might be able to squeeze. I mean, I can, but what good is that? You know, because I've got meetings till 4 or 5. I'll be there for 12 hours.
Right, it's not
almost,
like you can bail at 1:30.
Right, exactly. So I was like, well, let's go eat breakfast. Well, and I said, I'm going to go take a shower, find some places. And she goes, you know what? There's one place open, Waffle House. I was like, Waffle House, yeah.
Always open.
And I damn sure got me a tea. And it was damn sure sweet.
Yeah.
Frank, when's your last Waffle House visit?
Oh, geez.
Too long, sounds like to me.
I probably haven't. Yeah, I mean, it's been. It could be measured in years,
right.
I'm sure.
Right.
It's funny because it's such a. I mean, it's a staple in this area just as much as it is, in Atlanta, and yet somehow I still. I mean, it's. I would say probably at least 4 or 5 years.
Yeah.
It's been a while.
That's been too long. You got to get you a Chris's Texas cheesesteak and a scattered, smothered, covered, and topped, or peppered, or mushroomed, or whatever you do. However you do that thing.
Yeah. Boy, we used to go every week after the football game in high school. Every Friday in the fall, it was Waffle House, Waffle House, Waffle House. So we've done up some Waffle Houses, and then in college it was like 2 a.m.
You're just glad somebody else was willing to do the driving.
Yeah, no
like I'll ride with you, but
I'll ride. Don't dare me. And always got the same thing in college. I want the hash browns with the freaking works.
Oh yeah, I stopped even getting the cheesesteak and just getting a triple order hash browns with.
And every
mustard, mayonnaise, dirt from the ground on that.
Every
thing.
one of the condiments. I think Waffle House is the last place to still have Heinz 57 as one of the staple standards.
Heinz 57 and Tabasco was the only thing I wanted on my cheesesteak. That's it. Just those two things.
I think at that point I was in the mindset to just drink it if I wanted to.
Pretty much. And then remember when they added the salsa? That was awesome.
Oh, that was killer. Yeah.
Because they used to not have the salsa. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, Waffle House built such a strong brand in Atlanta that about half the exits when you get outside of the perimeter in Atlanta have a Waffle House on both sides of the interstate. So northbound and southbound traffic don't have to be inconvenienced.
It was Starbucks before Starbucks. You can see a Starbucks from a Starbucks in a lot of places.
Oh, yeah.
But you could see a Waffle House from a Waffle House at every exit in Georgia.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
I don't know how many of those are still around, but what else?
It's Union City, the exit that I get off to go to my parents' house, both sides. The exit that I live off of, exit 7 off 400.
Both sides.
Both sides.
Right on. Frank, how about Huddle House? Have you done the Huddle House?
Huddle House. Now, that's a new one for me.
Oh, okay. That one popped up in like the crappy parts of town. I felt like.
Well, and then remember Waffle King came along
around
somewhere and occupied some of those same. Remember when there was a coffee kettle that had like the exact same like sign is Waffle House, like the whole that squared off.
Yeah, the squared yellow,
like the Scrabble based
and
type of advertisement sign. It was like blue and white because they needed to be different than Waffle House's yellow and black.
Right, right, and you all pissed off. You're like, oh, there's Waffle. Oh no, what the hell is that?
I never even went in one. Now they don't exist.
I'm not sure that I've been in a Huddle House. Have you gone to a Huddle House, Sherwin?
Yeah, so we did when I was a real little kid because in Swainsboro, when my mom grew up, that's where we would go to get breakfast before we go fishing. Papa would wake me up at 4:30 in the morning,
right.
as one does, to go fishing when Papa's 65 and I'm 9
right.
or whatever age, and we would go to Huddle House. And the only significant memory I have of Huddle House is that they once served me sour milk.
Oh,
and that is one of the grossest things you will ever put in your mouth.
You know what? The place I went to for lunch today had sour tea. You know when you let tea sit out on the counter? If it's in the fridge, it's
when
fine.
the sugar rots.
Yeah, when whatever happens in tea.
And it happens fast. Remember,
this was unsweet tea, so it was just tea. It was just a
tea rots too. But remember when Van would put 783,000 tons of sugar in that 5-gallon pot or whatever it was, and man, if he made that tea at 11:30 on a Friday, if you drank that stuff at 4:30 p.m., you're in for some trouble.
Oh man! So Sarah just said, "Is there still Burger Queen, Taco Tico, and Ponderosa Steakhouse?" I don't know what Taco Tico is. I've heard of Burger Queen.
I've only ever heard of Ponderosa.
But Ponderosa for sure, that was a thing.
That's like that's like a Ryan's, and it like real similar kind of like.
It's something like, I don't think they have.
It's kind of a cheap steak place.
Yeah, but you can't get the super bar at Ponderosa. You have to get one of their crap steaks.
Yeah, right. The ones that are cut like this and medium, like all the way done is the only way you can get it cooked because they don't have enough tools to do it any other way.
So, Frank, I'm not looking this up on the internet. I just happen to know about it. Have you heard of the National Weather Service Waffle House Index? Have you ever heard of that?
I have not.
So
this sounds interesting.
Y'all go look it up. It's for real. I don't know if it's like official or unofficial. I mean, it's got to be unofficial, but it is a measurement of how effed a city is during a huge storm, tornado kind of thing, or major weather event. Is the Waffle House still open? Because
I've heard of this.
Yeah, because they've got the generators and everything to keep the thing open, and they are 24/7, always open, always. I don't know why they got locks on the doors. Always open. And National Weather Service says if Waffle House is open, that's like a Waffle House index of 1, meaning. All right, things are not great, but Waffle House.
It's like DEFCON green.
Yeah, we're all right. Like our ice storms that we've had here. Waffle House has always been open during those.
Oh, hell yeah.
So yeah, well, you know what, South, y'all be all right. It's fine. Maybe a little ice here and there. Now Waffle House closed, like temporarily. You're messed up. Something real bad.
Oh yeah, your ish is
right
in bad shape.
And there's only 3 levels. Waffle House is open, Waffle House is closed, and third level is Waffle House got destroyed.
Got destroyed. I was going to say, it's got to be got destroyed.
Waffle House is gone.
So
for our friends that are all over the country, which is what we generally have here in the in the chat board, remember Del Taco? Did you have a Del Taco in Snellville?
We had Del Taco, yeah.
We had a Del Taco in Fayetteville, too. And
They just opened up a Del Taco
I am
not too far from
super
here.
confident that we had a Del Taco way before we actually had a Taco Bell.
That might be the case for us too, because like Taco Bell came and it was like, whoa, we're a real city now.
Well, I remember where the Taco Bell is now. I know I can picture it in my mind. That was trees when I was a kid.
yeah.
And then they knocked it all down, built our nice movie theater, and a grocery store nobody ever heard of called Food Max that didn't do very well. And like some kind of German like village cafe thing where like you could go get like a nice European style meal.
I wonder if it's still there in Snellville. There's definitely used to be a Del Taco building there in Snellville, right on 78. You can see it.
Ours is like a loan place now.
Exactly.
No, it's an Enterprise Rent-A-Car.
I was about to say, I think it might be a used car place or something. Oh, Frank, we've been kind of ignoring you, reminiscing about our Waffle houses and huddles and everything else. How was the New Year? What'd you do to bring in the New Year? Or ring in?
The same thing I do for probably the last, I don't know, maybe 10 to 15 New Years, and that is sleep.
Sleep. Getting this, catching up on the sleep for the New Year, huh?
Yeah, I'm not much of a night owl anymore. For work, I'm usually awake at about 4 in the morning. So by 8:30, 9 o'clock, I'm usually pretty spent. So yeah, I was sound asleep at midnight, and probably will be next year too.
Now, I was laughing about waking up at 4:30 and being like, well, I can't go to work. But if you're waking up at 4, you're probably going to work. Or what are your favorite breakfast places at the 4 o'clock in the morning time frame?
Usually that early in the day, I don't really eat a meal. I'll stop at like QT or Sheets or something and just grab like a little hold me over. And then, when lunchtime rolls around, it kind of, I start, scouring the nearby, the surrounding area for something that looks good. But yeah, that's one thing about, that's nice about having a job where I'm always out and about is I can literally get something different for lunch every day because I'm somewhere different around lunchtime every day.
Right.
Yeah, that makes sense. So, all right, as we tend to do and go off script here a little bit, and I won't drive us too deep in the ditch, but there was a period of time when there was some really funny Twitter, like, holy wars, so to speak, like friendly holy wars about whether Chipotle or Moe's or Sheets had the best burrito bowl.
Oh, man. Burrito bowl, huh?
Sheets has got, they actually, for a gas station, got a pretty awesome food offering.
Huh, no kidding.
Like, it's not roller food like QT, for instance. Like chili wieners.
Sheets has some good stuff. Like when I'm near a Sheets, I will go out of my way to go to Sheets because when it, like, especially for the cheeseburgers that they have there, it puts just about any fast food restaurant to shame.
Wow.
It's funny you say that because I know Rusty and I are probably both the same way. We probably haven't been to have lunch at a Dairy Queen very often, especially in the last 15 or 20 years.
No.
But they do have a damn fine hamburger.
Is that right?
Yeah.
I grew up, I probably had, I'm telling you, 100 Blizzards before I had a burger.
I didn't even know they had anything but ice cream for a long time.
Exactly. I thought they're an ice cream shop or something. Yeah.
Blizzards and that what's that the cone with they pour the chocolate crap over the top of it?
Oh, like the dipped cone or
the
whatever?
Dipped cone, yeah.
Oh, man, that's the stuff. I must be hungry or something. I'm sitting here thinking about all this food. Quick Trip, the Atlanta race coming up, Quick Trip Folds of Honor 500. And so in the media center, all the food is that roller food. You get your taquitos and your buffalo chicken logs and all that stuff.
Oh, yeah, like the mini taco thingies.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
I mean, you name it.
That's awesome. Me and the wife, that's like I'll call it a guilty pleasure or indulgence, if you will. If it's late night and we're kind of feeling snacky, we'll head down to the QT, get some taquitos or something. When we were in the media center eating on that stuff, I didn't tweet. I just sent her a picture, texted her a picture of it, and said, "All this and it's all free."
Yeah, all you can eat.
She was like, "I'm so jealous." I think I ate 2 taquitos, and I'm like, "Oh, why? Why
did I do this?"
Yeah, but good stuff, Frank. Holiday season just behind us. You said you were sleeping through New Year. How about Christmas? Anything fun there?
In all honesty, no, because my wife actually went to Florida with the girls to visit her parents. I can't take that week off of work for obvious reasons. Yeah. So we did our little Christmas thing at home about a week before the actual.
What was the highlight there for the girls?
I was solo on Christmas Day.
Oh man.
And I got a few things done around the house. And I had mentioned on Twitter that, you know, I was just hanging out by myself at the house. And Sydney Lett actually tweeted me back, and she's like, "You can come hang out with us if you want."
She's
and
awesome.
and I was like, at first I'm like, you know what, it might not be a bad idea, but then I was like, you know, I don't want to give everybody the wrong idea. Like, I'm not sitting here depressed and miserable because I'm by myself. I was like, I have a mountain of junk food. I have 3 video game systems hooked up to the TV in the living room. I'm good.
Yeah. Yeah. Right on. Well, play that Call of Duty and the Fortnite and the I don't know.
Yeah, well, Sydney Lett certainly is awesome.
Oh, she's a gem.
And her mother is hilarious,
as it turns out.
So if you don't follow her on various and sundry social media spaces, she's pretty funny.
So let's do this. Let's actually talk some NASCAR. We're going to tear it down and talk about the week's news. I mean, not a ton of stuff, but pretty importantly, the big news from NASCAR: changes to the aerodynamics package for short tracks and road courses. Frank, why don't you tell the folks what's up with that, and then tell us what you think.
Well, first off, what they're doing is we're seeing a scale back in the absurd downforce package that we suffered through at every short track and road course. And it's funny because, you know, for a while there, the short tracks and the road courses were carrying the series in terms of fan interest, and to the point that, you know, it turned into a rhetoric like type chant, you know, more short tracks, more road courses, and all of them were complete flops last year. And so, you know, I read, you know, I read the announcement today, and it was really hard to read it and not get the impression that basically they were saying, hey, remember how we had this great idea and we told you everything was working? Well, we kind of, it really wasn't working. So now we're going to do this thing, and it's really going to work. You know, and it's, you know, certainly I see it as a positive adjustment. You know, I never before has the eventual race winner at Martinsville led more than 900 of the 1,000 laps at the track in a season. So that, you know, I definitely see this. It's an improvement. They are listening to, you know, they did recognize that there was a problem. They recognized that the fan response to that, the results of those races. You know, without living in the past, you know, I wish we wouldn't have had to do this in the first place. I don't know. You know, NASCAR has a lot of smart people that work there, and they had to have some idea of what was going to take place when that rules package was implemented. You know, to begin with, you know, we don't have one type of track. You can't have one type of aero package. So mile and a half, you know, went sky high, and they, you know, it was a home run. And then they try, you know, but you can't use the same thing, you know, on short tracks and road courses. And we saw the results of that last year.
Well, so here's where I'll back you up a little bit, Frank. And just for the purpose of entertaining myself and the discussion itself, for 40 years, we ran the exact same car at every kind of racetrack. And that seems to be the overwhelming, like, the grossness that the people that were watching those races then, when we were all too young to even be involved in the sport, those people are all disenfranchised with the way NASCAR continues to change packages and, you know, all the different things that we don't really have to list right now. But my question would be, and it could be just just throwing this in the ether without even discussion is, why can't we have the same package at every racetrack?
Well, one of the main differences from back then to now is the cars are so heavily engineered. Everything is wind tunnel and dyno, and they're much more aerosensitive. There's not that reliance on mechanical grip versus 20 or 30 years ago, and the changes thing is nothing new. I think a lot of people still, have this vision of grandeur about the good old days when NASCAR didn't have to do these things. They did those things. There would be a race at Daytona and Fords would take the top 8 spots and Chevy would say, "Hey, we're getting screwed. Help us out." And the next week, spoiler changes. So then, Chevy would run 4 of the top 5, and then the Ford would say, "Look what you did. Now you gave them an advantage." So the next week, Ford has a little bit more nose. And then the Pontiac team say, "Hey, what about us? We need help." So then they, tweak the Pontiacs, and then, Pontiacs take, 3 of the top 4 spots the next week. So, it was the game has always been played. It just, with the advancements in technology, it just keeps the ways in which the ever evolving tweaking and adjusting takes place, keeps changing. But, I don't know. I think that it would be nice if, I just don't see how, with the technology that the teams have and the engineering that goes into the cars, how they could get one type of car to suffice for every track. I don't know. I mean, I think that's ideal, but I just don't think it's possible.
So interestingly, Sherwin, I seem to remember back, especially when we started watching, it was there were 2 different cars. Now, I'm not saying it was 2 different rules packages, but it was, this is your speedway car, this is your short track car. I seem to remember the short track cars even looking a little different, a little more stubby on the nose, a little more this and that. Were they able to just tweak more stuff back then? Is that the case?
So I think, and where I'll interject
Not
here,
that the rules were different, but that the cars.
Yeah, where I'll interject is they had, restrictor plate cars, and they had every other kind of car, and the restrictor plate cars had that really snubbed off nose that didn't look anything like what they were racing. Let's call it 2004. You guys at home can get on there and look up pictures of those cars from then and see how much different a car at Atlanta or Bristol or Martinsville looked from a car that would run at Daytona or Talladega. So yes, we've had that, and I totally don't want to discount everything Frank just said about how NASCAR has continued to tweak rules for years and years and years. The thing I want to reiterate is what you said initially when we first started this conversation about what are the changes to these cars that really matter, and why are we doing what we're doing, and how do we refranchise the disenfranchised fans that don't like what we're doing with the rules, because there's a ton of that fodder out there. Now, granted, Twitter, maybe 10% of NASCAR fans are on Twitter, so you have to take that with a grain of salt too, because what is it? The loudest, the squeaky wheel gets the grease.
Yeah, the vocal minority and all that stuff. Yeah, good question. I don't know, but this does feel like either the first time or whatever, that to your point, Sherman, it's a different rules package altogether. And so we're talking about, if Tommy Joe was on here with us, he'd be talking about money, right? I mean, now you got to spend more money to have 2 different cars, or 2 different rules packages, 2 different spoilers back there, 2 different whatever else. So yeah, that's it's an important distinction there. Let's move on to second period right quick. Dale Jr. announcing he'll race at Homestead in the Xfinity Series in March, which is very weird to say. He'll be in the March race at Homestead.
That's a pretty big paradigm shift, right?
Yeah.
Not just Junior racing that race, but that we're going to go to Miami in March.
Right. It's almost as weird as still saying the year 2020, like when at the top
That's going to
of the
be
show.
weird for a hot minute.
Yeah. So he's in the number 8 Junior Motorsports car with the Hellman's paint scheme again. I mean, this is pretty much third year in a row that he's decided to do this. So, now we're in a trend. So Frank, any surprises there for you?
Honestly, no. I don't think so. And reason being is that when he stepped away, it was for health reasons and, the concern over his future and his ability to play the role within his, family and his life that he wants to. He didn't retire because he didn't want to race anymore. Mm-hmm. And I think we're clearly seeing that, that he's still actively seeking out these opportunities to get back out there, to get back on the track, and because he feels like he's still competitive, and I would agree with him in that sentiment, and because it's his car, his team, he can do it entirely on his terms. There's no shortage of anytime Dale Jr. wants to run a race, he will have a sponsor. So there's not a concern there.
Yeah.
But I think it's just that he wasn't able to, his health concerns kind of forced his hand, but you can tell that he still has that desire and that drive to compete.
Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense. I think Homestead actually makes a lot of sense for Junior for the same reasons why we all assume that Kyle Larson is eventually going to win a cup race there, and that Junior loves rubbing the wall. Mm-hmm. Like, he likes to kiss the wall all the way around, just a little puff of air. Everything else you said about Junior is 100% correct. That like he wants to still feel what a car feels like. So I assume for him, a lot of it's personal R&D on being a better, on the mic reporter for his section of races and owner. And I think what's very interesting to me is that they're committed to making that 8 car be some kind of an R&D type car where they're going to put 6 or 8 different drivers in it, as opposed to just run a 5th car, which is what they used to do at JRM when they wanted to put Casey or Truex or Junior in that car. That car's going to run a full schedule, which is, you can learn a lot more from that than just adding the 88 in a 5th car and saying, I wonder what this car we didn't really pay attention to all year is going to do. Mm-hmm. But we've been running the 8 since Daytona with people we think are capable drivers.
Something I just thought about is I'm really looking forward to Homestead this year, because this is going to be the first time we've seen it where it isn't the championship race. Meaning, say what you want about competition in NASCAR and all that, but what do we usually see at Homestead? We see the guys who are the last 4, running up top.
Running up front.
People are going to get out of their way. Hey, leaders are coming. You're probably going to scoot out of the way a little more. You got you got nothing to gain, and they've got everything to lose. So, you're kind of playing nice for those guys. There's no more playing nice at Homestead. There's no reason. This is everybody's ticket to punch them into Phoenix. So, I think it's going to be an interesting, much different race than we've seen.
Well, certainly no one's going to want to have to win at Daytona in September in order to make the playoffs. Yeah. So that just ramps it up and even more.
Yeah, Frank, is this all conspiracy theory with Homestead, or do you think we're going to see something different?
No, I think you're right on. Homestead is, of all the tracks on the circuit that are, super speedways, a mile or more in length. I feel like Homestead is probably the one where the driver makes the biggest difference. Mm-hmm. You've got, everywhere, the car is important and the driver, the ability of the driver is important. but I think that the scale is heaviest on the driver, aspect at Homestead than it is at any other super speedway. And so, I'm curious to see how that race unfolds for, the reasons that you mentioned. We haven't seen a champion since we went to this playoff format that we currently use win the championship without winning at Homestead.
Brad was the last one.
And
even then it was a little bit different set of circumstances.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Right. So, you definitely, it's a good measuring stick for the races that we've seen in the past. And, I think that it might help teams that, when guys get to the finale at Phoenix, they might look back on, the previous races at Homestead, they'll say, well, when Homestead was the last race of the year, this happened. When it wasn't, this happened. Mm-hmm. Well, now they can say, when they get to Phoenix, they can say, well, when Phoenix wasn't the last race of the year, this is what happened. So, there's a basis for comparison there, because nobody knows what to expect out of Phoenix being the last race. Will we see the same thing? Will it just be the championship 4 running in the top 5 all night? So I think that, there's some things that the teams themselves will be, looking to that race to kind of, learn and gauge for, down the road when they get to the end of the year.
I'm curious, with Atlanta and Homestead being in such close proximity to each other and generally considered to be very similar race surfaces in terms of tire wear, wanting to run the top, maybe not all the way around Atlanta. A lot of guys run top in 1, 2, and then run the bottom in 3 and 4. Harvick is the only guy that can figure out how to run the bottom all the way around the racetrack, and he's magical at that. But I'm very curious to see what the rhetoric will be coming from the race teams about the fact that those two races are in such close proximity to each other, how closely they are aligned when we don't have to deal with this whole championship situation.
Right. And so seeing who's doing well there and doing well at Atlanta and seeing who's, complaining about the track and whatnot, yeah, that'll be interesting. Sherwin, same time of year, every year, I do this. I'm sitting at work. I've probably got about 15 minutes to play around, goof off. I'm not going to start anything new. So I go look up last year's Chili Bowl, and I start watching, and I go, man, we got to get out to Tulsa and watch this thing. Do. Good grief, how cool is this?
Brett's going to be there. Mick's going to be there.
Man, it is. It's super neato to watch those. Just to watch that main event. But I mean, it's not just main event. You got to take a whole week off. If you're going, you can't just go for that. You got to. I mean, it's starting now.
They had
yesterday or whatever.
They had a W main last year.
Yeah, yeah. So
they had 340 cars registered.
I was scrolling through the registration list today because I was like, "Where's Christopher Bell?" Or what's Christopher Bell's number? And I was just looking up stuff. I put in Bell, and I had to scroll through like 30 people named Bell who were in there to get.
Well,
Bell.
I saw the list where it like how many times you had made the A main in like your career as a driver, and that list of people like. Swindell has made the A main 27 times.
Good grief. Yeah. Yeah.
Tony's made it like 14. Chad Boat, who is the husband of the co-host of Door Bumper Clear. He's made it 12 times.
Wow. So, Frank, with the Chili Bowl this weekend, is it going to be a Christopher Bell show for the 4th time in a row, or are we going to see something different? What do you think?
I think that I actually anticipate it being the Kyle Larson show. I think he's that whole thing, last year.
Thing.
You can tell that I feel like Kyle Larson wants that race so bad. And, to have, to have been that close only to lose it, I think that he's going to come out with a vengeance. He is laser focused, and I think this will be the year that Kyle Larson finally gets his golden driller.
Yeah, and I can't speak with a lot of intelligence about it, but I believe Kyle's actually done more midget racing this offseason than he typically has done in the past, because he's normally a winged outlaw kind of guy. Mm-hmm. But I know he's already won a midget race let's call it since NASCAR, went to the off season. Yeah. I don't know if it was in December or if it was in January, but that doesn't matter. But I think you're right, Frank. I think Kyle's pretty hyper focused on this trophy.
I'll tell you what, the midgets, because we've watched so many of those winged races now. You go back and watch the midgets. These things come off the ground like if you just blow on them. It is crazy watching them just even coming out of turn 2 and they get back on the gas. Half of them wheelie, coming off. And they're trying to mess with the throttle so that they can get the front end down so they can turn again.
Right. Well, we talk about how much power the 410s have based on what the weight of the vehicle is, because you got 1,000 horsepower in a 1,600-pound vehicle. Mm-hmm. Well, the midgets have like 450 to 500 horsepower in a 1,200-pound vehicle.
Yeah, it's insane. So, yeah, that's going to be fun. Frank, you planning on watching that?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's – and it's funny, too, because, there's a few people that I joke around with. Mick's actually one of them, because I've never been a real big dirt racing guy. I grew up watching asphalt racing, and the local short tracks near me were all asphalt tracks. So that's always kind of been what I gravitated towards. And I always, I like to razz the crowd that, the dirty boys.
Mm-hmm.
But, I think that, it's an intriguing show, you think about the whole thing. I mean, they're racing inside,
mm-hmm.
And I find the whole thing, fascinating. And, I can, as a competitor, I can certainly understand why you would want, so badly to win that race. It's almost like the harder everyone else around you is trying to win that race, it just makes you want that race even more, and how do races become prestigious? What made, they didn't just wake up in at some point and say, hey, the Indy 500 is prestigious now. It's the amount of effort and the attention and the hype and, the competitors, gunning for these trophies that makes them so desirable. And it's a crown jewel in that form of motorsport. And, you just can't, it's just like, Monaco in F1 or the U.S. Nationals in drag racing. I mean, it's the thing. And that kind of stuff always has a little bit more of a draw when there's that much, prestige and that much, attention paid to one event.
Yeah, absolutely. That's why we all pay attention to what's going on with the Snowball Derby. Mm-hmm. We now, because of how much we've, embedded ourselves in racing, we pay attention to the Winchester 400 and then the Knoxville Nationals and then the Chili Bowl. And those are all different disciplines of racing. But there's a lot of crossover. And I think that's what makes it so cool that, there's a lot of drivers that have run all of those races.
Mm-hmm. So moving on, silly season is getting shorter, Sherwin. We're 32 days from Daytona right now. And
that's just the 500. Hell, we got the 24 hours coming up here just in a couple weeks.
So, but we still got drivers looking for a ride. One of the biggest names there, Daniel Suarez, Bob Pockris earlier this week or today, I think, saying that 96 car is still a possibility. He thinks it's a strong possibility.
That was the car that Kligerman drove a handful of times last year, I think.
Maybe. I can't recall now.
Yeah, me either.
Frank, any possibility there, or should we start or stop counting any chickens with Suarez?
Well, to answer your question about that, was the car that Parker Clearman,
nice.
among others,
Sure.
drove last year. You know, I think that, it's hard to think that if I was, in Daniel Suarez shoes, imagine going from Stuart Haas, going from Joe Gibbs Racing to Stuart Haas Racing, and not to bag on, Gaunt Brothers team, but they are not at a competitive level that those other two organizations are. And so
their goals aren't the same either,
Right. Yeah, absolutely. But, his desire to be on that team has to be there. Mm-hmm. I think that, you just because it's a ride and he needs a ride, the musical chairs thing, it's there to some extent, but is he willing to sit in that chair? Mm-hmm. And I think that the reason that nothing's happened there yet is he's probably still holding out for something that he feels like will give him a better shot at being competitive. Mm-hmm. That car runs, reasonably well at Daytona and Talladega, but in all honesty, any car that avoids the big crash runs reasonably well at Daytona and Talladega. So, I feel like I don't expect anything from that situation just yet, because I feel like he's not giving up on, another potential opening, somewhere that maybe he'd rather be. It's some of his personal goals might play into it as well. Would he rather be in any cup ride, or would he rather, be in something competitive in a lower level division? So
the Daniel Hemrick sort of model.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Well, I thought a good fit for him might be, pick up 8 or 12 races in that number 8 JRM car. We already talked about Junior running that car as purely an R&D car. Why not put Daniel Suarez in that car?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. That's definitely, to me, something like that seems a little more logical, and a little more, just a little more in line with what Suarez is probably looking for. I mean, you're talking like he won the, an Xfinity Series championship. He didn't set the world on fire in the Cup Series, but still to expect him to go from Gibbs to Stuart Haas to Gaunt Brothers, I think is, I don't anticipate that, being anything more than an absolute like last ditch, 3 days before Daytona, before the teams have to pack up and I still don't have a ride kind of thing.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's always interesting to see these things unfold. We've watched some weird things happen with Bubba Wallace in that respect, and kind of wandering around trying to find your way. It kind of feels like Daniel Suarez isn't ready for quitting NASCAR, to your point, and it doesn't sound like NASCAR is ready to give up on Daniel Suarez. So.
Yeah. No, it's hopefully something happens there. You know what? For this note, I wrote, Something eSports.
Oh boy.
eSports alight on social media. Frank, why don't you catch us up on what exactly was going on with eSports right now?
All right. So this week, NASCAR held a media day for the their East NASCAR league, the teams of the Cup Series and their drivers that race on iRacing.
Mm-hmm.
And there were some objections from a few notable drivers in various real world racing disciplines. Notably, I think the two that stood out to me were Doug Coby, and who is a 6-time modified series champion, and the older brother of NASCAR champion Brad Keselowski, Brian Keselowski. And so I think Doug's tweet probably generated the most interest, and he basically panned, and I think a lot of people took this the wrong way. I think a lot of people thought that he was blasting the iRacers themselves, and I think it was more of that he was basically pissed off that he's been, champion many times over, long time competitor in the modified series. I mean, he's been in the modified series since I can remember. I've known his name for many years, and never once has there been a NASCAR modified series media day. And I think that he was pretty sour about the fact that NASCAR is going so far out of their way to promote this, new medium, series, however you want to term it, when there are, guys that, lay on their back under their car, with wrenches in their hand, and they, got busted knuckles and wiping the, grease off of their face after the, at the end of the event, guys who have spent a career doing things like that are not going to respond favorably to, the way I kind of joked about it among with our group chat for Front Stretch was that they're not going to take favorably to guys who can whose mom hands them a bowl of Doritos while they're racing.
Yeah.
That's a funny way to put it.
I can't. Here's the thing. NASCAR obviously wants to grow this whole esports thing. They see a market there. I've been a supporter of it. And if they want to grow it, they need to put some attention toward it. And this is how they decided to put attention. And I can see if there's somebody in a sport or in a, series that they're not necessarily looking to grow, at a fast pace, is going to be kind of sour towards. So I don't know. I'm seeing both sides of this, Sherwin. I'm not sure where to align myself on this debate.
Well, so the analogy I use that I think is the most appropriate and also the least offensive is watching film of football plays does not make an NFL player. An NFL player watching film helps him get better because he's already an NFL player. And a lot of the argument was centered around, well, everybody in NASCAR is using sim programs, whether they're using their, OEM manufacturer sponsored sim or they're doing iRacing at home like Dale Jr. Yeah, they're professional race car drivers. So perhaps they can learn something from sight lines and braking points and on throttle and off throttle points. You ain't learning how to race a car sitting behind a video game.
I think you are, though. I'm going to disagree and say I think you are. You're learning all the things that you just said. You're learning about throttle and lines and all that stuff. You certainly maybe don't have the mechanical side of things that Frank was alluding to, and I think you're kind of talking about. But I think you are. That's a.
It's okay for us to disagree.
Yeah. That's one of those things. I don't think we can reconcile that. I don't know how.
Well, I don't know how they could ever build in an algorithm that actually understands what the surface and tire wear and, what brake heat is and, how much 1/2 inch of tape means for aerodynamics or for brake ducts.
Well, sure. We heard Carl Edwards several years ago say, well, I just tried to do it like I do in iRacing and slam them, ride them around on the wall, and that didn't work. And it's like, okay, well, there's something sure that certainly don't work. I think I think there are things that do work. But yeah. Anyway, I don't know. I don't know where I'll go with that. We'll just leave it there. We're keeping Frank up way past his bedtime here, so I appreciate Frank, you staying around for us for a while. Tell us about any features, anything coming up that you've got going on, or any races you're going to be at coming up.
Right now, not a whole lot. We're usually things are pretty quiet for us, during the month of January.
Mm-hmm.
We do have a couple guys going to the 24 hours, but for the most part, we'll fire up most of our features and our columns. In the week leading up to the Clash, and pole qualifying for the 500, and we'll be off and running before we know it. I think. I don't travel, 36 weeks out of the year like a lot of these guys do, but, I'm definitely looking forward to things getting going again. I feel like overall, the ship has been off course for a while, and I feel, while it might not be exactly where we want it, I feel like some of the recent changes are steering it in a better direction. And so I'm optimistic that, we'll see, some good on-track product this year. There were some compelling storylines. The rookie of the year class this year could be, better than anything we've seen in close to 2 decades. To me, I think back to, back in maybe 2001 with Harvick and Kurt Busch, and then 2002 with Jimmy Johnson and Ryan Newman. There's an influx of talent coming in from the Xfinity series that was, those guys were, immensely entertaining over the course of the last couple seasons. And, I anticipate that continuing. I think, we could see more than one of those guys in victory lane before the year's out. And, I think that kind of thing, definitely intrigues me. So, I'm excited to get things going again, and I think the fans will be too.
Awesome.
Yeah, well, we don't see a lot of rookies win races on their own volition, and I say it that way because Chris Buescher won a fog race and Joey Logano won a rained out race as rookies, and that's basically it.
Yeah,
for rookies winning races.
And you mentioned it, Rookie of the Year for a while has been kind of like, well, there's 2 new guys, and one of them, gets 8 top fives, and the other one
is driving the boner pill car.
Yeah, so
that's extends for those of you who don't remember.
Oh man, so yeah, and it was obvious. So yeah, it'll be an interesting little deal there. Frank, why don't you close us out? Tell the folks where they can find you and what's coming up.
I'm always on the old tweet box, probably more than I should be, but I enjoy the interaction and the occasional difference of opinion. But you can find me on there at Frank Villat. If you want to give me a hard time about something, feel free.
Awesome.
And like I said, just looking forward to getting back at it. I'll be handling 2 columns this year for Front Stretch. I'll be putting together Friday Face Off, where the staff offers their viewpoints on any hot button issues from that week. And I'll also be putting together a weekly feature, Underdog House, where we keep an eye on basically the bottom third of the field, the teams that you don't see interviewed after every race, but those teams still have fans and they still deserve some element of coverage.
Awesome. Well, we're looking forward to it, Frank, and we're looking forward to maybe catching up with you coming up soon. With that, Sherwin, let's close this thing down. Y'all know where to find us, PETMPodcast.com, at PETM Podcast on the Twitter handle. As always, I'm Tailgate Mayor Rusty Wallace, at Tailgate Mayor.
And I'm Andrew Sherwin. We're also at PETM Podcast on the old Instagram, and I'm at Andrew L. Sherwin on the Instagram. Y'all make sure you go follow Frank Villat, and please head over to iTunes or Pocket Cast or whatever app you use and give us a subscribe, rate, and review.
Awesome. And we will talk to y'all next week. Thanks a lot for joining. See y'all. Woo! All right. Frank, that closes us out. Thank you, sir, for hanging out with us.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Yeah. It's been a blast. Get to talk NASCAR every once in a while when we're, not really in the season or anything. Yeah, I don't have much else to say. I know it's like we said, well past the bedtime, so I don't want to keep you up, but appreciate you hanging out.
Yeah, no problem, man.
Yeah, thanks a lot for joining us, Frank.
We can, if we run out of NASCAR, we can always shoot the breeze about fast food restaurants.
Yeah, as it turns out.
I think we did like 25 minutes on that.
Hopefully some folks will have something to relate to.
The Waffle House podcast presented by some NASCAR stuff.
Yeah.
I'm sure we could find a way to do that. Actually, we have a friend that used to manage Waffle House stores, and
he's got stories.
He's got the kind of stories that could only happen at Waffle House.
For some reason, I remember his mayonnaise story.
The mayonnaise is the one that always sticks out to me.
They
4 o'clock in the morning, they ran out of mayonnaise. He's like, "What is it you want me to do about that?"
right.
Just tell the customer we don't have mayonnaise.
Oh man. Well, Frank, we'll let you roll. Appreciate you hanging out. Thanks a lot, and we'll talk again soon.
Sounds good. I appreciate it, guys. Thank you.
Take care.
All right,
man.
see you, Frank.
See ya.
Bye.
Well, everyone, that brings us to the old PTM After Dark.
Golly, we got a Del Taco reference in there.
Oh, yeah, a little bit of everything.
Did
you know what?
10 minutes on Waffle House.
I just looked. I kind of half mentioned it. There's a new Del Taco somewhere around here. I don't know, like they're making a resurgence or something. Yeah, because I was looking for new restaurants for me and the wife to go to, and it was like Del Taco. I'm like, what, Del Taco? Here's the funny part: was the picture on Yelp for Del Taco was a burger. Do they sell burgers at Del Taco?
I really honestly wouldn't even know. Is
no
it like
clue.
how
Del
Hardee's
Taco.
went from selling fried chicken to just selling hamburgers?
Yeah. Indeed, Del Taco sells burgers. Oh, and they sell fries that are like fully loaded or something. What is that?
Uh-oh.
Holy smokes. Burger and fries. They've got like steak and guacamole and sour cream and cheese, everything on
Goodness
the sun.
gracious.
Yeah, wow. Okay. Well, Del Taco bringing it.
We had a Del Taco in Fayetteville and Peachtree City at one point.
Man, what's up, Mick Rose? Just dropped in saying hi from the Chili Bowl. That's awesome, dude.
Woo!
Thanks for joining. That's man, I'm infinitely jealous is what it is.
Wow, when you're done soaking up all that exhaust and watching race cars do race car things, you can listen on the old iTunes.
That's right. Race of Champions about to start. Got to go. Right on, brother.
Woo!
We'll talk to you soon. Enjoy that. Enjoy it and tell us how it is. Folks, I'm getting this thing all buttoned up, and I think I'm about to have to start doing work on here to make sure this thing gets up and everything. So we're going to call it an evening. Thank you all for joining and hanging out.
Whoops, we didn't get the YouTube producer changed over to episode 227.
Oh, crap.
That's okay.
You know what?
It'll show up in all the other places.
There's no time like now. I changed the date. You see the date?
The date is correct.
Yeah. Well, there we go. In the last 5 seconds of the podcast, you're going to see 227 show up on there.
Solid.
I've changed that one. Wait for it. Wait for it.
Oh, boom.
There it is.
Victory.
So we'll see which one actually shows up on the splash screen. Thank y'all for joining. Have you some Taco Bell, some Del Taco, everything.
Yeah,
Fire
Waffle
the
House, Huddle House, coffee kettle if you can find one.
Right on. We'll see y'all next time.